Three souls, three praise. I'm a bow in your hands, Lord. Stretch me, or I'll spoil. Don't overstretch me, Lord, 'cause I'll break. Overstretch me, Lord, and let me break. Nikos Kazantzakis. At the beginning there was the eternal, the incorruptible, the endless, the surrounded from nothing chaos. The chaos was the source of life. From chaos was born the earth, the very beautiful and very powerful goddess, the mother of breath and eternity. Deep inside earth were born the obscure creatures called Tartara, the Erebos, and the eternal night. From the night and the Erebos were born the ether and the day. The beautiful earth gave birth to the sky and to the mountains, which very proudly raised to the sky, and from the insides of which overflows the sea. From chaos was born the unique power of love. The sky couples with the earth, and together they have 7 girls and 6 boys. They were the terrible Titans. The son of the sky and of the earth, Titan Ocean, couples with the goddess Pythia, and they bring to light the Oceanids, the goddesses of the sea. Titan Hyperion, together with Phia, give birth to the sun, to the moon, and to the aurora. Astreas and Io have filled the sky with stars and have given birth to all the winds. The earth gave birth to 3 Cyclops too, with only one eye in the middle of their front, and another 3 giants with terrible power, who couldn't be beaten by anyone. The sky was angry with his children, and he prisoned them into the abdomen of the earth. But Mother Earth was in pain, and she persuaded her son, Kronos, to rebel and to take the authority from his father. Kronos was afraid that his own children would take the authority from him too. So, as soon as they were born, he ate them, one after the other. He swallowed Estia, Demetra, Ero, Hades, and Neptune. But Rhea did not want to lose her last child, so she followed the advice of sky and earth, and she left in order to give birth to Jupiter on a hospitable island. On the island where love couples with bravery, on the island that can give birth only to gods, and the name of this island is Crete. Crete, the island which was the cradle of civilization from the beginning of history. Anyone who visits Crete meets in every stone, in every breath, in every look the signs of a great civilization. The yesterday coexists with the today. In the Cretan words, in the everyday life, and in the air, there is a civilization of Minoas. The sound of the Venetian cannons, the thundering voice of the pirate Barbarossa, the voices of the Turk occupators, the shots from the Battle of Crete, the figure of Eleftherios Venizelos, the spirit of Nikos Kazantzakis, the warmth of the Cretan people. An endless chain of moments that have affected international history fascinate the visitor. They transport him to charming times and places and offer him the beauty of civilization, the admiration of the bravery and the dizziness of the sweet wine raki. The island is formed by three mountainous fists, which in their fingers hold woods, earthen slopes, villages and rivers. Eagles couple on the high mountains. Songs can be heard at the slopes of Psiloritis, and their echo arrives to Iri and Lassithiotica. Under the shadow of these mountains were born many Cretan generations who fighted in Canea, fell in love in Rethymno, enjoyed themselves in Agios Nikolas, and accomplished great things in Heraklion. The Cretans have deep roots in these stones, stones soaked by raki and blood. All these elements together, and every one of them alone, build the island that we start to explore, to get to know and to love. The first people of the island lived in the caverns of the island during the Neolithic period. In 2700 before Christ, the sea brings to the island invaders from the Orient, who little by little assimilate with the natives. That's when the Chalcolithic century begins and when the Cretans are very developed. They build big buildings with architectural plans. The pottery creates colored pots and vases, and the first writing with picture elements appears. In the 2000 before Christ is built the first palace in Knossos, in Festos and in Mallia. The tribe of the Achaeans, which was a tribe of the Greek, begins to descend. It crosses Macedonia, Thessalia, the Isthmus of Corinth, and it arrives until Tenaro. It was difficult for the first Greeks to arrive to Crete as invaders, so they went there with good intentions and new relationships. At this time, a tremendous revolution destroyed the palace of Knossos, Festos and Tilissos, and only the palace of Mallias, which was empty, was saved. The financial crisis which follows is big, but 50 years later Knossos is being rebuilt and it's stronger. King was Minoas, the leader of the 100 cities of Crete. Minoas is a dynasty which reigns between the 1700 and 1400 before Christ. Was Minoas a half-god son of Jupiter? It's unknown. What we know is that he brought Crete to the top of their power. The trade doesn't stop only to the islands of Greece, but it arrives to Egypt, Cyrus, Phoenice, and the Minoan pots travel all around the Mediterranean. Apart from Knossos, the whole island is full of ornaments. The civilization reaches Iphistos, Tinissos, Mikrochania, and Agia Triada. But during a night of the 16th century, the Achaeans arrived to the island, which didn't have a strong army, and they burnt it. They pulled it down, they destroyed the whole island except from Knossos. King Minoas compromises with the Achaeans, but not for very long. A second invasion completes the destruction, and the country of Minoas disappears. An Achaean king succeeds King Minoas, and his country is succeeded by the Greek country, with capital the city of Mycenae. The double axe, the sacred stone, the sacred trees, the big goddess of Cretans, Big Mother, nothing from those saved Crete from the lethargy. During the classic period, Crete remains at the margin of the Greek world, and only Alexander the Great took some Cretans with him because they were very good warriors. In the 823, the island is occupied by the Arabs, who stayed there for almost a century. The Byzantium expels the Arabs, but after the Fourth Crusade arrive genuine Venetian ships. But under the pressure and the violence of the occupator, Crete gives birth to the painter Dominikos Theotokopoulos, famous as El Greco, and others. The hand of Kornalos writes the Eratokritos. The Turks are waiting for the right time to invade Crete, and when a Turkish ship traveling to Mecca is being captured, they attack. And after 23 years of the resistance of Gadia, the Turks occupy the island. The 2 centuries of the Turkish occupation of the island are the darkest ones of the history of Crete. With the help of England in 1898, and after many rebellions, Crete becomes independent and she becomes Greek again in 1913. But the battles haven't finished for Crete yet. The Mercury operation ordered by Hitler in order to occupy the island forces again the Cretan people to fight for their precious freedom together with soldiers from Greece, from Britain and from New Zealand. Like the mother that feels pain for the child she loses, did Crete feel pain for all the children and for the German parachutists too, because they were also children whose passions had turned into one and only perverse devotion to Hitler and to the fantasy of an international sovereignty, writes Stewart. For another one time is Crete occupied, but for another one time the sun rises free behind the mountain Psiloritis, and the nymphs Adrastia and Hydar, who nourished Jupiter with the milk of the sacred goat Amalthea, are still there to welcome the visitor on the island of love, of freedom, of the sea. Canea. The city of Canea is built on the location of the ancient society. It's a city with a lot of signs of the Venetian crossing on her walls, on her houses, and on her armory. The Venetians raised their flag in 1252 in Canea, and they built glamorous buildings, churches, castles, and the port. But the Genoans became also the masters of the city from the 1267 until 1290. The city had an acropolis, Castelli, and on her walls was the house of Armostes and of the rich Venetians. The tremendous pirate Barbarossa plundered Canea, which afterwards was occupied by the Turks until 1647. In the 1897, international powers disembarked on the island in order to stop the battles between Turks and Cretans, and when Crete became Greek, Canea became the capital of the island. In this town, where once walked Eleftherios Venizelos, today a lot of native people and tourists fill the streets. This is the sign of a city which doesn't rest, of a city that searches for new ways of financial and touristic development. Which painter could create this painting? The light of the sun, dazed by the blue of the sea, enters the colored houses, dances up the yellow, red, blue window shutters, and on the tiles of the roof, looking against the sea. A happy world awaits you at the old neighborhood around the Venetian harbor. Time doesn't exist here, and the song and the dance circulate in the blood, and life becomes a drink that you must drink out in order to quench your thirst. At the small taverns, which are dispersed here and there on the beach and in the city, Cretan delicacies and diamond wine wait for you. The delicious kaltsounia, dolmadakια grinded into vine leaf, the famous bureki. Here is temptation on the coals, and if the temptation of Eve hadn't been an apple, it would have certainly been one of these shellfishes. You must also taste the snails and the echinus. And after that, a warm sea waits for you on the beaches of Nea Chora or Galatas. Summer in Crete means beauty, romance behind the sunglasses and under the open sunshades beside the waves. And as for the children, there is no prohibition. Here everything can happen too. Moments that will live in our memory forever. Moments from an unforgettable summer. And the sunsets arise like a goddess of the sea. The last rays of the sun bring on your mind the wild battles, the ardent love, and the endless nights of all this time. Night, a loving invitation, a promise. Night, hours for thinking and for fun, for entertainment that a lot of people combine with a delicious dinner or a drink in a picturesque bar. But who could say no to the delicacies brought by the fishers, grilled on the coals, that have the smell of sea, and that are accompanied by the wines Retsina or Cochinelli from the vineyards of Crete, or by raki, a drink that can be drunk only by those who are accustomed to having a small volcano in their stomach, a volcano that causes a sweet dizziness. The night itself is a dizziness, and the Cretan dances too.
Γεραγιατζι στολίζουνε, άντε σαμάν αμάν.
A new day begins for new games with the sea on the beaches of Agia Marina, Nea Chora and Platanias. As we leave the blue seashores, the dentelated beaches, and as we cross the tableland of Omalos, we arrive to Samaras Gorge. The hand of God seems to have separated the mountains in order to create the Samaras Gorge. It's a unique gorge in the whole Europe, and that's why the European Council has prized it with a first prize. But what council and which human being can prize this beauty, this greatness, this perfection? The visitor has to walk 18 kilometers, and he has to walk through water for at least 47 times if he wants to cross the gorge. 18 kilometers full of cypress trees, wild flowers, stones, and silence. And in this wild beauty, the Cretan wild beast accompanies us to our walk. From his horns the Cretans, in the old times, used to make their arches. If you cross the gorge from the 1st May until the 31st October when it's open, don't forget to write your opinion of it in the visitor's book. In its pages, one can meet all the languages of the earth, and all of them express their opinion of the gorge with just one word: exceptional. Walking through this wild beauty, we see the walls of the gorge, which rise at a height of 300 meters. Its broadness starts from 150 meters and at some places reaches the 3 meters only. Our steps lead us outside the gorge in the village of Agia Roumeli, where we can take a prize of the Cretan Organization for Touristic Development as a remembrance of the gorge that we crossed. Agia Roumeli, a fisher village with hotels, restaurants, and charming beaches. The village is built on the ruins of the ancient Tara, where it is believed to have existed laboratories of glass because there have been found pieces of pots of glass in the excavations. From Agia Roumeli, the small boat transports us to the heroic Sfakia. Sfakia is the bastion of freedom, as its stones never knew the foot of the invader. People who never surrendered, but who always looked at the sun with bravery. People who in their blood have the blood of the Doric tribe, and that's why they have a brave look and a brave walk. They are always first at the fights for freedom. The people of Sfakia were the first to rebel in 1821, creating their own parliament, the Chancery of Sfakia. Here there's no life or death, there's only the Sfakian spirit, which isn't afraid of anything. Whoever wants to get to know the freedom and the bravery has to walk through Sfakia, where the ancient customs and habits of Crete still exist. On the east of Canea, in the area of Apokoronas, there is the only lake of Crete, the Lake Kounia. In the ancient times, there was the city Pokoronio and the sanctuary Isipon and Kori of the Corisian Athene, from which it took the name Corisia. Today, the only thing that exists from all these is the charming landscape of the lake. The lake collects the waters of the mountains situated around it, and inside the lake there are two sources that maintain it. The lake is full of eels and aquatic birds. It never overflows because its waters leave the lake through an underground deep hole, and they appear again at a distance of 4 kilometers, where the sources of the Almiros River are created. Six kilometers from Canea, and on the east, there is a location of Prophetess Elias. In 1897, The Cretan revolutionaries, with leader Eleftherios Venizelos, erected here their flag. It is impossible not to be surprised by this city, the city that, as the poet said, has its feet into the water and does not want to move further on. It is Rethymno. One stone above the other, and all together built the castle of Fortezza. Every stone has its own story to say. It narrates a special story from the history of Rethymno. They all speak about the ancient Rethymna, on which was built the new city, about Venetian soldiers and traders, about Turkish occupators, and about George Hortazis, who wrote Erophili in the 16th century. The small picturesque Venetian harbor with remembrances that coexist with a today life. Walking through the city, we will see the large numbers of churches that had begun Zamia during the Turkish occupation. We will see the picturesque streets and the Venetian gates of the 16th and 17th century. We will see the Turkish verandas made of wood, the houses that gave hospitality to Venetians, Arabs and Turks, houses that have an exceptional beauty and history. And we will meet the Jami of the Big Door, which was built in 1670. Much more impressive is the minaret built in 1890. And the surprises of the architecture of the houses follow us step by step. And we arrive to the Fountain Rimonti, built in 1588. A big athletic event for the city of Rethymno are the athletic games, which take place every year, called Vardinogiania, as a remembrance of the politician and the benefactor of the island, Paul Vardinogiannis. The sandy beaches around Rethymno give the possibility of games with the sea, with a fantasy, and with love. We say goodbye to the castle of Fortezza and to the historic Rethymno in order to go 22 kilometers on the east, where we find the Arcadian monastery. There is nothing more gentle and more glorious than dying for our belief and for our country, with no fear of the fire, of the sword, or of anything else. November 1866, and into Arcady there were 966 people, monks, children, women, and only 250 men could fight. Outside Arcady, the light of day had become darkness because of 15,000 Turks, Egyptians, and Albans. The battle was terrible, and the enemy was entering into Arcady. The abbot Gabriel Marinakis put on fire the gunpowder, and as the powder magazine exploded, it became an international symbol of sacrifice and freedom. And inside the historic monastery, one can still hear on the temple of the sanctuary the loud voices of the battle, with St. George as the general, a battle that ended where all wars end, in blood. There still is blood in the sacred image of Christ. We leave the heroic Arcady and the historic monastery in order to arrive to Agia Galini. Agia Galini, a picturesque little harbor, full of peace and very quiet. In front of Agia Galini, there is the Libyan open sea, and behind it, there is the mountain Psiloritis, which protects it. The open place, which belongs to Spili, has 19 fountains in the shape of lion heads. It is worth drinking cold water and resting under the platen trees. Continuing our tour in the region of Rethymno and crossing picturesque villages, we will find Anogia at the height of 700 meters. On the open place of the village, there is a statue of Vasilis Koulas, close collaborator and friend of Eleftherios Venizelos. Anogia is famous for the cloth mills that make carpets, bags and blankets. Heraklion. As the history of many centuries tells us, Heraklion was the seaport of Knossos. In 823, the Saracens fortificated Heraklion and opened a ditch around the earthen palisade that surrounded the city. From this ditch, the city took the name Hantagas. During the Byzantium, the city was the capital of Crete. She was capital of Crete also after 1204. She remained capital during the Venetian occupation too, but her name had changed into Candia. But by the Cretans she was called Castle or Big Castle. The name Heraklion was given to her by the Committee of the Fighters during the last century. Captain Michalis, who symbolizes the eternal Cretan, creation of Nikos Kazantzakis, whose creations are also Christ is being crucified again, the Last Temptation, and others that have caused various reactions all over the world. I don't hope anything. I'm not scared of anything. I'm free. The Cathedral Church of Agios Minas, built between 1862 and 1895. Rare fresco paintings and sacred images ornament the inside of the church. the Venetian loggia, used as the bourse of the traders during the Venetian occupation. In 1626, Francesco Morosini inaugurates a beautiful fountain where we can admire the nymphs and the tritons, who were dolphins and lions. The Place of Freedom, with a memorial of the unknown soldier, is the heart of the city. It is difficult to leave Heraklion without visiting the archaeological museum. In 1900, the Hunt of Sir Arthur Evans brought to light Knossos. A wonderful and exceptional group of buildings where King Minos lived. Knossos, the town where the heart of Crete used to beat and where today beats the heart of humanity. The history of Knossos starts with the Minoan period that followed the Neolithic period and that lasted over 3,000 years. Minos was the son of Jupiter and Europe, and every 9 years he went to a cavern to talk with his father, Jupiter. The mythology tells us about the wife of Minos, Pasiphae, that she gave birth to the son of the sacred bull, Minotauros. The Athenian artist Daedalus built the labyrinth where Minotauros was imprisoned. The vassals of Athenians had to send 7 virgins and 7 young boys to be eaten by Minotauros every 9 years. But Ulysses, with the help of Ariadne, daughter of Minos, killed Minotauros, and the Athenians didn't have to pay the blood tax anymore. We say goodbye to Knossos and to Heraklion, and we go to a traditional village called Arolithos. Everywhere in the village is present the popular tradition. We can rest for a little while drinking raki, and when it becomes night, we can admire the traditional brave dances again. It is impossible not to follow them to their manifestation of joy. You almost think that God Dionysos will suddenly appear from inside the vineyards, the god of happiness and wine, accompanied by the satyrs. From these grapes are made the famous Cretan wines that are exported all over the world. One of the most important products of Crete is the raisin, which here lays under the sun. The collection of the fruits of the sacred Greek tree will give us the oil, which is the most important product of Crete. The orange trees fill with a fragrance the wind, and these are also one of the products of Crete. Αγία Πελαγία. rock rests the sun, and into the caverns one can hear the echo of the waves that welcome thousands of visitors every year. Visitors who arrive here with one intention. They want to live some peaceful moments, some One of the most cosmopolitan locations of Crete is Chersonissos. This beauty, that can be seen everywhere around us, except from the sea and the games of sea, offers us charming bars, hotels and apartments, streets for walk, corners for some rest, and one can find here everything that one might desire. Near to Chersonissos there is Stylida. With the serenity in her waters, the beautiful houses and the hotels. Hotels which were built in order to offer a professional and an exceptional service. After Stylida, there is another cosmopolitan corner, Mallias. Beaches for endless games with the sun and with the sea. And when the sunset comes, the whole area of Mallias, Stylida and Chersonissos has thousands of nocturnal entertainments to offer you. Bars beside the waves, places where one can eat souvlaki with gyros meat or roast on the spit, cafeterias for fresh juices, fruit or ice creams, pizza houses, and pubs and discos for those who want to have fun until the morning. And now we say farewell to Malia, to Stylida, to Hessonissos, and to their beaches. And on our way to Agios Nikolos, we must not forget the tableland of Lasithi. The tableland of Lasithi is situated on a height of 850 meters. It is a very fertile location with crystallic waters, and which at the old times had 1,000 wine mills. On Sunday, the merry bells of the church can be heard from the whole village Magoulas, and on the other days one can hear the laughter of the people. Magoulas, a village with famous woovens made by experienced hands. Agios Nikolos welcomes us in front of the Mirabellas Golf. Agios Nikolos, a bathing resort that captures the visitor who will walk on its streets. On the faces of the visitors, one can see that they feel happy to be here. The new port is connected with a small but charming lake, which is situated inside the city and which was formed by the crater of a volcano thousands of years ago. The name of the lake is Almiri. The small church of Agios Nikolos that gave its name to the city, a fantastic city that can offer to the visitor everything that he asks, a city that you can't stop adoring. On this part of the land, where the Bay of Mirabellas Gulf is connected with the peninsula Spinalonga, one can see the ruins of the ancient city Olunda. The port of Olunda was protected by the nature and the small islands that were a nest of pirates a long time ago. The modern Elunda, however, is a place with big touristic units, beaches with cafeterias and taverns beside the waves. The lights turn on, and they can be seen on the sea, and the rhythm of life revives in the discos. A rhythm that fascinates you, no matter how old you might be. And in the tavernas, the manifestation of joy with dances like Zebekika, Hasapika and Tsiftetelia put wings to your legs. Byzantines, Saracens, Venetians were masters of Ierapetra, whose coasts are only 230 nautical miles distant from the Arabic shores. The Sea of Ierapetra charms the visitor, and the sound of the wave couples with the happy faces, the boats, with the nights under the moon, with the moments of the summer. Ierapetra is able to offer everything that one might desire from his summer hours. activity of the city is present during all periods of the Cretan history. Cittia became an episcopal seat. Ruins of many ancient cities at the area of Cittia that had a lot of power are today under the sea. Their sinking was caused by the same catastrophic earthquakes that caused a settling of the ground of the Oriental Crete and the raising of the Occidental Crete. The party of Sultanina, organized by a Greek walking corporation, takes place here from the 10th until the 20th of August. Celebrate the wine, god Dionysos and his faithful people. In the same month take place the Cornaria too, a celebration that wants to honor Vincenzo Cornaros, who wrote the masterpiece Eratokritos and The Night Under the Moon in Vai. a hug of love of the sea and of the sun, bars, discos, restaurants, nocturnal centers for amusement with traditional music played by the lira and the fagotto that can be heard everywhere. Colimbari, an exceptional location for swimming, surfing, water skiing and delicious food in the tavernas of the area, or for a 1-kilometer walk to the fortificated monastery called Gonias, which was built in 1618. A monastery with libraries, a museum, Byzantine sacred images, and fresco paintings. And from the high rock of Gonias, and flying over the Cape Rhodopos, we arrive to the Cape Gramvousa. Agria Gramvousa, a small, arid island on the northwest of Crete. Imeri Gramvousa, the castle on the small island with the same name that played a very important role during the Revolution of 1821. Balos, a small lagoon with a virgin beauty. Thalassagna, on the west coast of Crete, which for centuries is raising little by little, there was a Doric society. Today, there are the ruins of the ancient city on the firm land. Chrysoskalitissa. The 90 stairs that lead on the top of the mountain are gold, according to tradition, but cannot be seen by a sinner. We can see, however, the monastery of Chrysoskalitissa, a monastery consecrated to the Assumption of Virgin Mary and to the Holy Trinity. Elafonisi. God, before creating paradise, created Elafonisi, and on this model he created paradise too, because Elafonisi is a paradise, a piece of land that travels in the blue sea, with passengers, the dreams and the beauty. And the sea is full of fish that offer unique beauty because of their variety and their big amount. Paleochora, with the medieval and with the Byzantine monuments, the hotels, the campings, the corners on the beach for those who love to lay naked under the sun. arrive to Francocastello with its dentelated coasts and the marvelous castle built by the Venetians in 1371. Prevelis Monastery, the beach with the palms that cannot be crossed easily and that combines the peace and the serenity with the beauty. This is Crete, blood and love, bravery and tenderness, thunders and starry sky. But the time to say farewell to the sun and to the sea has come. The Cretans, however, never say goodbye, they always say welcome, because everyone who visits the sea feels with love and sea and can never leave it.